Esther Chapter 4, Esther learns of Haman's plot. Now when Mordecai learned of everything that had been done, he tore his clothes in mourning and put on sackcloth and ashes, and went into the center of the city and cried out loudly and bitterly. He went only as far as the king's gate, because no one was to enter the king's gate dressed in sackcloth. In each and every province that the decree and the law of the king reached, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing, and many lay on sackcloth and ashes. But there's a key there. Did fasting. Let's find out what happens here. And praying, right? When Esther's maids and her eunuchs came and told her what had happened, the queen was seized by great fear. She sent garments to clothe Mordecai so that he would not remove his sackcloth, but he did not accept them. Then Esther summoned one of the king's eunuchs, whom the king had appointed to her attend her, and ordered him to go to Mordecai to find out what the issue was and why it had come about. So he went out to Mordecai, and he was right in front of the king's gate. And Mordecai told him everything that had happened to him, and the exact amount of money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasury for the destruction of the Jews. So Mordecai also gave him a copy of the text of the decree, which had been issued in Susa for the Jews' destruction, so that it might show Esther and explain to her, and order her to go into the king to seek his favor and plead with him for the lives of her people. She's put in a position that many are never put in. Then Haman came back and told Esther what he had said. And then Esther spoke to him, saying, and ordered him to reply to Mordecai, saying, all the king's servants and all the people of the king's provinces know that for any man or woman who comes to the king to the inner court without being summoned, he has but one law, that is to be put to death, unless the king holds out to him the golden scepter so that he may live. And as for me, I have not been summoned to come to the king for the last 30 days. So they told Mordecai what Esther had said, and Mordecai told them to reply to Esther, do not imagine that you in the king's palace can escape any more than all the Jews. For if you remain silent at this is the time. If you remain silent at this time, liberation and rescue will arise for the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will perish, since it did not help when you had the chance. And who knows whether you have attended royalty for such a time as this, and for this very purpose. It's a very famous line, right? It says at the bottom, even though this verse does not directly mention God, Mordecai obviously believed that Esther was made queen through God's design, and she would be acting as God's agent to deliver his people, right? How do you know that you're not born for such a time as this? That's so very true. Esther plans to intercede. Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, go gather all the Jews, observe a fast for me, to not eat or drink for 3 days and night or day. I and my maids also will fast. Then I will go into the king, which is against the law. If I perish, I perish. So he went away and did exactly as Esther had commanded him. So faced with something so huge that it could result in death, right? Fast. Do a fast and pray. They didn't eat or drink for 3 days. Nothing. Just to fast, to intercede, to get very connected with God, and to say, okay, God, I'm surrendering all of this to you. And then the famous line, how do you know you were born for such a time as this in your life? Sometimes people always say, I was born in the wrong time. No, you were born right now for such a time as this. There goes Maxine. All right, come back tomorrow. We'll read some more.